Ever feel like you're going up against Goliath?
Totally.
Yeah, like the odds are stacked against you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, today's deep dive might just give you the edge you need.
Ooh, I like it.
We're cracking open Chapter 9 of Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
Okay.
And trust me, this ancient wisdom is anything but dusty.
Right.
We're talking terrain tactics.
Yeah.
How to use your surroundings to outsmart, not just overpower.
I love that. Using your surroundings to your advantage. It's fascinating because what Sun Tzu wrote centuries ago for literal battlefields still applies to these metaphorical ones we face every day.
Yeah.
Whether it's a tough negotiation at work or even just navigating a crowded subway.
Oh, yeah.
Sun Tzu's got your back.
That's right. Okay, so Chapter 9 is all about maneuvering the army. But before we get into the specifics, can you give us a little background on Sun Tzu and the art of war?
Sure.
For anyone who might not be familiar.
Sun Tzu was a Chinese general strategist and philosopher who's traditionally believed to have authored The Art of War. It's a military treatise that's had a profound impact on both Eastern and Western philosophy and military thinking.
So this isn't just some ancient history lesson.
Right.
This is a guide to strategy that people are still using today to get ahead.
Exactly. It's about understanding the principles of conflict, whether it's on a battlefield or in a boardroom.
I like it.
And Chapter 9 specifically is about using the terrain to your advantage.
Okay.
And it's not just about the physical landscape, but also the psychological one.
Okay, well, let's unpack that.
Yeah, let's unpack it.
The chapter kicks off talking about the high ground advantage.
Uh-huh.
And Sun Tzu really hammers this home, saying things like, an army prefers high ground and avoids low ground.
He's not messing around.
Right.
He even says, when positioning an army to face the enemy crossing mountains requires encamping in valleys, select positions on high ground to ensure life and safety.
Wow.
Clearly, he sees this as a fundamental principle.
Yeah, but why is higher ground so strategically important?
Okay.
It can't just be about seeing the enemy better, right?
Well, visibility is a huge part of it, no doubt. From higher ground, you can see your opponent's movements and anticipate their actions. But there's also a psychological element at play.
Okay.
Occupying the high ground projects an image of power and control, which can intimidate your opponent.
So it's like when you walk into a meeting and instinctively go for the seat at the head of the table.
Yes.
You instantly feel more in command and everyone else is looking up to you literally.
Precisely. It's about establishing dominance.
Yeah.
And think about it. If your opponent wants to reach you on higher ground, they have to work harder, tiring themselves out before the real battle even begins.
So you're not just gaining a physical advantage, you're wearing them down mentally, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about creating a strategic advantage from the outset. And this principle applies even in situations where there's no literal high ground. Think about it in negotiation, for example.
Oh, yeah, okay. How would you translate high ground into something like a business negotiation?
High ground in a negotiation could be having more information, a stronger network, or even just being more prepared. It's about going in with a position of strength and leverage.
So it's not just about what you bring to the table, it's about how you position yourself before you even sit down.
Exactly. It's about setting yourself up for success by strategically leveraging your assets and understanding the terrain.
Right.
Which in this case is the negotiation landscape.
Okay, I like that.
Now, Sun Tzu doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
He also dives into specific types of terrain and how to adapt your strategy accordingly.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. What does Sun Tzu have to say about fighting in different environments?
Well, he covers rivers, marshes, and plains, each presenting unique challenges and opportunities.
All right, so what's the game plan for, say, a river crossing?
Okay.
I imagine that could get pretty messy.
Sun Tzu advises against fighting in the water itself.
Okay.
Instead, he suggests striking when the enemy is halfway across at their most vulnerable.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They'd be disorganized, slowed down.
And probably freaking out a little. Not exactly a power position.
Right. Then there are marshes.
Yeah.
Sun Tzu's advice here is to move quickly and use the natural cover to your advantage if you must fight. And for plains, he emphasizes seeking firm ground and having high terrain to your rear if possible.
So it's all about adapting to the environment and using it to your advantage.
Exactly. Don't let the terrain dictate your actions.
Yeah.
Use it strategically to outmaneuver your opponent.
This is making me think about how much we underestimate the power of our surroundings, even in everyday life.
Yeah.
We focus so much on what's happening right in front of us that we forget to look at the bigger picture,
Right.
the landscape we're operating in.
That's a great point.
Ugh.
Sun Tzu's teachings are about much more than just warfare.
Right.
They're about being aware adaptable, and using every advantage at your disposal. And that's a skill set that's valuable in any field.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of terrain. What else does Sun Tzu highlight in this chapter?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Sun Tzu also talks about reading the signs, almost like a spy thriller.
Ooh.
He gives examples of how to detect enemy movement through subtle cues in the environment.
Wait, hold on. Is this where it gets all cloak and dagger?
Yeah.
All right, sign me up.
Think of it as developing a hyper-awareness of your surroundings. Sun Tzu points out that even seemingly insignificant details can reveal enemy activity.
Okay.
For example, he talks about how moving trees, startled animals, and even dust patterns can give away their position.
Okay, that's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
Are you telling me I can learn to spot my enemies just by looking at a dust cloud?
He even says, when trees in the forest move, the enemy is advancing. When grass obscures movement, the enemy is hiding.
Oh, wow.
It's about paying attention to the smallest details.
Okay.
And yes, dust clouds. He says if the dust is high and sharp, it means chariots are approaching.
Okay.
But if it's low and wide, it's infantry.
So what you're saying is I need to start paying more attention to dust clouds. This is changing everything.
It's about being observant, yes.
Okay.
But it's also about understanding the context. A dust cloud in the middle of a desert might not mean much.
Right.
But a dust cloud in a normally calm forest could be a sign that something's up.
Okay.
And this skill, this ability to observe and interpret is valuable far beyond the battlefield.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Give me an example. How can I apply this reading the signs stuff to, say, my daily commute?
Think about it. You're on your usual train.
Yeah.
But today, there's an unusual tension in the air.
Okay.
People are whispering, looking around nervously.
Oh.
Maybe someone's acting suspiciously.
All right. I'm officially creeped out now.
But
But I see your point. It's about noticing those subtle shifts in the environment that might signal something's off.
Exactly. It's about being aware of your surroundings and paying attention to those little details that most people miss. It's like becoming a detective in your own life.
I like it.
And that's a skill that can be incredibly valuable whether you're trying to avoid danger or simply navigate a tricky situation.
This is making me realize how much we tune out our surroundings, how much we're missing.
Yeah.
We're so focused on our phones, our to-do lists, that we forget to really see what's going on around us.
That's precisely why Sun Tzu's teachings are so relevant today. He's reminding us to be present, to pay attention, and to use every piece of information available to make smart decisions.
I love it. Okay, so terrain and observation are crucial, but I have a feeling Sun Tzu doesn't stop there. What else is he packing in this strategic toolkit of his?
Well, this is where we delve into the mind games. Sun Tzu goes deep on the psychological aspects of warfare.
Ooh.
And how to use them to your advantage.
This is getting good. Lay it on me.
All right.
How do we win the mental battle?
He talks about interpreting your opponent's words and actions to understand their true intentions, their motivations, their fears. He gives an example saying, if the enemy's speech is humble, while they increase their preparations, they're about to advance.
So it's not just about what they say, it's about what they do.
Yes.
Actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this applies to so many situations, not just war.
Yeah.
Think about a job interview. The candidate might be saying all the right things,
Yeah.
but their body language, slouching, avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, might reveal nervousness or lack of confidence.
Or in a sales pitch, a client might express interest in your product,
Right.
but their hesitation to commit might indicate underlying concerns that you need to address.
Precisely. It's about becoming attuned to those nonverbal cues, those subtle signals that can tell you what people are really thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
And that's a skill that can be incredibly valuable in any field.
It's like becoming a human lie detector, but without all the fancy gadgets.
It's about being observant, curious, and willing to look beyond the surface.
Okay, so we're reading their body language, listening to their words,
Uh-huh.
but always looking for that disconnect, right?
Right.
Because that's where we can gain an advantage.
Exactly. It's about understanding that in any kind of conflict, there will be those who try to gain an advantage through trickery or manipulation.
So it's about being discerning.
Yeah. Being skeptical.
Yes.
And not taking everything at face value.
Absolutely. It's about trusting your instincts, verifying information, and always being prepared for the unexpected. Sun Tzu also provides some pretty insightful observations about the enemy's logistical situation. For example, he says things like, if the enemy feeds on grain and slaughters their horses for food, they are desperate. And if rewards are frequent, they are pressed for time. If punishments are excessive, They are in distress.
It's like he's saying, look beyond their army and see their entire operation.
Yeah.
If their supplies are low,
Right.
if their morale is cracking, that's where their weakness lies.
These observations highlight the importance of understanding the enemy's logistical constraints. An army that's running low on supplies, facing internal dissent, or struggling to maintain control is likely to be more vulnerable.
So it's not just about assessing their military strength, but also their economic and psychological resilience.
Exactly. And this applies to modern conflicts as well. Think about a business competitor.
If they're overspending, facing employee turnover, or struggling to innovate, those are signs of weakness that you can exploit.
So whether it's a war or a business deal victory often comes down to who can outlast the other.
Yes.
Who can maintain their strength and resolve over the long term.
Precisely. It's about understanding that every battle has multiple fronts, and victory requires a holistic strategy that addresses not just the immediate conflict, but also the underlying factors that contribute to strength and weakness.
This is blowing my mind. We've gone from terrain tactics to spycraft to reading minds to dissecting entire operations.
Yeah.
And this is just one chapter.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Wow.
Sun Tzu's wisdom goes deep.
And just wait until you hear what he has to say about leadership.
Oh, I know.
But we'll save that for the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait. Welcome back.
Back for more.
Ready for more mind games from the master of strategy himself.
Oh yeah, I'm all ears. Last time we left off with the idea that every conflict has multiple fronts and victory requires a strategy that considers the whole picture. But let's get back to Sun Tzu's advice on reading the enemy's behavior.
Right. It's about those subtle clues that can reveal their intentions and state of mind. Sun Tzu gives us a series of observations, almost like a checklist for deciphering the enemy's true motives.
Ooh, I love a good checklist. It's like he's handing us the cheat codes for human behavior. Give us some examples. What are some things we should be looking out for?
Well, for starters, he talks about interpreting the enemy's movements. He says, if the enemy angrily advances but does not engage for a long time, observe them closely.
That's interesting. It seems counterintuitive. If they're advancing angrily, shouldn't we be preparing for an attack? Why the emphasis on observation?
It suggests that the enemy might be trying to provoke a reaction to draw you out.
Okay.
Or perhaps they're trying to conceal their true intentions behind a show of force.
Right.
It's a warning not to be swayed by appearances and to look for deeper meaning.
So it's about staying calm, assessing the situation, and not falling for any head fakes.
Exactly. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Sun Tzu also provides other more practical examples. He says, if their soldiers lean on their weapons, they are hungry. If they drink before fetching water, they are thirsty.
Wow, so even basic needs can be used to assess the enemy's situation. That's fascinating. It's like he's saying that even the smallest actions can reveal a lot about their state of mind and their logistical situation.
Precisely. And this ability to connect seemingly insignificant details to the bigger picture is invaluable not just on a battlefield, but in any situation where you're trying to understand someone's motives or predict their actions.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this applies to everyday life. Like if my coworker comes in grumpy and snappy, maybe they didn't get their morning coffee and it's not a good time to ask for a favor.
That's a great example. It's about understanding that everyone is operating within their own context, their own set of needs and motivations.
Right.
And by paying attention to those clues, we can navigate social situations more effectively.
This is making me rethink all those times I've misread a situation because I wasn't paying attention to the subtle signs.
We all do it. It's human nature to focus on the obvious, the loud, the dramatic. But Sun Tzu reminds us that the most valuable information is often hidden in plain sight if we know what to look for.
So how do we train ourselves to become better observers, to pick up on those subtle cues?
It starts with being present, being mindful of your surroundings. Put away your phone, step away from the distractions, and really observe the people and the environment around you.
Yeah, that's harder than it sounds in our hyper-connected world.
It takes practice, but the rewards are worth it. Imagine being able to walk into a room and instantly get a sense of the dynamics at play, the power structures, the unspoken tensions. That's the kind of insight Sun Tzu's teachings can offer.
Okay, I'm sold. What other mind-reading tricks does Sun Tzu have up his sleeve?
Well, he goes on to describe how to interpret the enemy's overall condition and morale. He says things like, if birds gather, the position is unoccupied. And if the enemy calls out at night, they are afraid.
Wait, birds gathering means a place is empty. That seems like a pretty big leap.
It's about recognizing patterns, understanding the natural order of things. Birds wouldn't gather in a place where there's a lot of activity or danger.
Right.
Their presence suggests a sense of peace and stillness.
Ah, I get it. It's like nature's own intelligence network giving you intel on the enemy's movements.
He also says, if the enemy calls out at night, they are afraid. And if the army is disorderly, their general is weak. And if flags and banners move chaotically, the army is in disarray. It's like he's saying that the outward appearance of an army can reflect its inner strength or weakness.
So we're not just looking at their physical actions, we're looking at their overall demeanor, their discipline, their sense of order.
Precisely. It's about understanding that the way an organization presents itself, whether it's an army or a company, can reveal a lot about its culture, its leadership, and its overall effectiveness.
This is making me think about company culture and how much it impacts performance. A company that's chaotic and disorganized is probably not going to be as successful as one that's well-run and efficient.
That's a great connection. Sun Tzu's insights apply to so many different aspects of life.
Okay, so we're reading their movements, their demeanor, even the birds. What about their words? What does Sun Tzu say about interpreting the enemy's speech?
He emphasizes paying close attention to what they say, but more importantly, comparing their words to their actions. Remember his earlier advice, if the enemy's speech is humble while they increase their preparations, they are about to advance.
Ah, yes, don't trust their words, trust their actions. Classic Sun Tzu.
He's not saying to completely disregard their words, but to be aware that actions often speak louder, especially in situations where there's a lot at stake.
Right, it's like in a negotiation. Someone can say they're willing to compromise, but if they're not nudging on any of their demands, their actions are telling a different story.
Exactly. And Sun Tzu also warns against being fooled by false promises. He says, if the enemy requests peace without a formal agreement, they are planning deception.
So trust but verify, right? Always be on the lookout for mixed signals, ulterior motives, the whole 9 yards.
It's about being discerning, being skeptical, and not taking everything at face value. Trust your instincts, verify information, and always be prepared for the unexpected. Sun Tzu's teachings are about empowering you to make informed decisions, not just reacting blindly to what's in front of you.
This is making me realize how much we tend to take things at face value, how easily we can be manipulated if we're not careful.
It's easy to get caught up in the moment, especially when emotions are high. But Sun Tzu reminds us to step back, observe, analyze, and make strategic decisions based on the full picture.
Okay, so we've covered reading the enemy's actions, their demeanor, their words, and comparing it all to make sure the pieces fit. What else can we glean from observing the enemy?
Sun Tzu also provides some really insightful observations about the enemy's logistical situation. He says things like, if the enemy feeds on grain and slaughters their horses for food, they are desperate. And if rewards are frequent, they are pressed for time. If punishments are excessive, they are in distress.
So it's about looking beyond the surface and understanding the inner workings of their operation, their supply chains, their morale, their leadership.
These observations highlight the importance of understanding the enemy's logistical constraints. An army that's running low on supplies, facing internal dissent, or struggling to maintain control is likely to be more vulnerable.
It's like in a business negotiation. If you know your opponent is under pressure to close a deal quickly, you have more leverage. Or if you know they're facing internal challenges, you can use that to your advantage.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that every conflict has multiple fronts, and victory often comes down to who can outlast the other, who can maintain their strength and resolve over the long term.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on what it means to win. It's not just about brute force or aggression. It's about being strategic, resourceful, and understanding the bigger picture.
And that's precisely why Sun Tzu's work has resonated for centuries. His insights into human nature strategy and leadership are as relevant today as they were on ancient battlefields.
So we've delved into Sun Tzu's advice on reading the enemy's behavior, interpreting their actions, their words, and even their logistical situation. It's like he's given us a masterclass in observation and deduction. But there's one crucial element we haven't touched on yet, the role of leadership in shaping the outcome of any conflict.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, we're back.
Yes, we are.
And ready to tackle the final piece of the puzzle?
The grand finale.
Leadership.
This is where Sun Tzu's wisdom really shines. He goes beyond just listing qualities of a good leader and dives into the complex dynamics between a leader and their followers.
And it's not just about inspiring speeches and rallying cries, is it?
Yo.
Sun Tzu doesn't shy away from the less glamorous but equally important aspects of leadership, like discipline.
Absolutely. One of his most famous quotes is, if troops are punished before they have formed loyalty, they will not obey and will be difficult to use.
That's such a powerful statement. It's not about ruling through fear or intimidation.
Right.
but about cultivating genuine respect and trust.
Exactly.
So how does a leader build that kind of loyalty? Does Sun Tzu offer any practical advice?
He does. He emphasizes the importance of clear, consistent communication. He says consistent commands align with the Army's purpose and unify it with its leader.
That makes sense. If a leader is constantly changing their mind or giving contradictory orders, it creates confusion and undermines trust.
He even goes so far as to say, if commands are inconsistent, the people will not follow.
Right.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
So it's about setting clear expectations, being consistent in your behavior,
Yeah.
and holding yourself to the same standards you expect from others.
Precisely. And it applies to all forms of leadership, whether you're a CEO,
Yeah.
a coach, a teacher, or even a parent.
Right.
That consistency and integrity are crucial.
It's about leading by example rather than just issuing commands from on high.
Exactly. And Sun Tzu also understood that effective leadership isn't just about giving orders.
Right.
It's also about empowering those you lead. He emphasizes the need to train troops, develop their skills, and give them opportunities to succeed.
So it's about investing in your team, helping them grow, and fostering an environment where they can thrive.
It's about creating a culture of learning, collaboration, and mutual respect.
Yeah.
That's where true strength comes from, not just in warfare, but in any endeavor.
This is making me think about how much we underestimate the importance of leadership in every aspect of our lives. We tend to focus on individual achievement,
Right.
but so much of our success depends on the people we surround ourselves with and the leaders who guide us.
Sun Tzu recognized that. He understood that the strength of an army or any group
Right.
lies not just in its numbers, but in its unity, its discipline, and its ability to act decisively under pressure. And those qualities are shaped by the leader.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Chapter 9 of The Art of War,
Okay.
what are some key takeaways for our listeners when it comes to leadership?
I think what's most important is to remember that leadership is not about wielding power over others, but about empowering them. It's about creating a shared vision, inspiring others to follow, and fostering an environment where everyone can contribute their best.
And it's not just about being in charge. It's about serving those you lead, guiding them, supporting them, and helping them achieve their full potential.
Exactly. And that's a responsibility that shouldn't be taken lightly. Whether you're leading a team, a family, or even just yourself, Sun Tzu's principles can help you navigate the challenges and achieve greater success.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to reflect on your own leadership style and see how you can apply Sun Tzu's wisdom to become a more effective and inspiring leader. And remember, the journey of leadership is one of continuous learning and growth.
The best leaders are those who are always striving to improve themselves and those around them.
Totally.
So keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Chapter 9 of The Art of War. We hope you've gained some valuable insights that you can apply to your own life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.